Morning gang, Mr. G here on Mr. G TV and MrMikeDonner.com. Come with me on a journey, and literally come with me. I'm going to show you what I see. I'm going to be doing more of this, what I see on Mr. G TV. And this is the road that goes down to 7-Eleven, Tesco Extra in my local village. It might interest you that we have a Tesco Extra, although Tesco's lost its franchise here to some extent, and it's now called Lotus, because it used to be called Tesco Lotus, which was the Thailand brand, and I could get pretty much everything that I wanted, me jams and certain breads and certain tea bags and things that I recognised, but there's other stores I can get it, and I think to some extent the new brand, which is just called Lotus now in these express stores, I'll be okay. The reason I wanted to take you on a journey this morning was, first thing in the morning I get up, I go for a swim, have my breakfast and just tune in to what's going on in the world. I do that because I need to know, because I'm a corporate hypnotist. I do corporate branding, help people who are entrepreneurs and business owners, and they're affected financially and commercially and environmentally by what goes on in the world. And if I don't keep abreast of it, then I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I get left behind. My knowledge is limited if I don't keep up, but I'm fully aware that most of what we're told doesn't represent what actually is going on. It's just that the mainstream media reports on what I would call the agenda or the story, and they're all being supplied with the same agenda, the same story. They're just saying it from maybe different points of view, but if they don't want to tell you something, it gets omitted, and if they do want to tell you something, it gets repeated, and that's what's happening all the time. You watch any news program and there's this countdown to this crisis or this increases in numbers to another crisis, and it's the two C's, isn't it? And I'm not going to mention what they are, but one is representative of the weather and the other one is representative of the health situation, and that's all we're getting. And I know as a hypnotist, because that is what I am, who I am, and if I repeat a message to someone in hypnosis, one day they're going to get that message, usually instantly. But if it's something against the will, and I would never hypnotise somebody against the will, by repetition, basically you brainwash the person. And because when you're watching TellLieVision, you're in hypnosis. Hypnosis is a trance, and you watch television in a trance. In the moment I'm driving, sort of in a trance, although I'm conscious of what I'm saying, but hypnosis puts me into driving puts me into a trance. Driving puts me into hypnosis. Watching television puts you into hypnosis. We know that. You can be watching television for an hour and you think, oh my God, what time is it? Time flies. And the advertisers take advantage of that trance, and they put adverts on, buy this, use this product, eat this. Well, the government have took advantage of the television for years. In fact, a lot of people say it was designed for social hypnosis. It was designed for population control. To the BBC, which is the British Bullshit Corporation. Oh, sorry, I got that wrong. British Broadcasting Corporation. Freudian slip. They actually used the radio, the BBC World Service, to communicate propaganda during the war. And it's never really stopped. I mean, we know that they used to use subliminal messages at the cinema for advertising. They'd flash a message on the screen saying you're thirsty about a minute before the break, and then everybody, when there was a break in the film, would go and get themselves a drink, because the suggestion was implanted subliminal. In other words, you sort of miss the frame. If the film is running at sort of like 500 frames a minute, they'd put 10 frames in, which you didn't actually consciously see, but subconsciously. The subconscious mind is faster than the conscious mind, and it gets implanted into your hard drive, and you're thinking, oh, I'm thirsty. You're not really, it's just that you've seen it and it's told you that you are. So therefore you think, oh, I'll go get a drink, that seems like a good idea of mine. It's not your idea, it's what they've put into your mind. That's exactly what's going on at the moment. Hope you're enjoying this view while I'm talking to you. This is the main road that goes into Ha Hin now from my village, which is called Nong Saw. It's 11k, 11 kilometres, about 6 miles, 6-7 miles. I enjoy this, I do it on my bike. There's a bike lane, you can see this motorbike on the left hand side. Very rarely did they stay there. All over the place. You can notice that this guy will have a mask on probably to protect him from the virus. Can you see he's just absolutely, he's not even looked, he's just pulled in front of me now to get past this combination. They don't look, they don't signal, and quite often they don't even have lights. But that's Thailand. Welcome to my world. You get used to that. It's the same in India, it's the same in many countries. This guy, as I say, he's got a mask on, but no helmet on. That's the level of the indoctrination. His government's told him to wear a mask to keep him safe from something that is spurious if it exists, and it's spurious whether or not that mask will work. But something that definitely does work if he falls off his motorbike is a motorcycle helmet, and there's no rules for that. And I think that in itself tells you everything that you need to know about what's going on in certain governments around the world. And there's a child on the back of this bike. You see motorbikes going down the road, people holding motorbikes, people holding children on motorbikes, and you see 5 on a bike. Nobody's got a license, nobody's got insurance. This bike on the left now has got no idea I'm here, and I'm keeping a very close eye on her because she's just moving in front of me. They drive in a straight line. If there's a bend, they don't go around the bend and stay in lane. They'll just go in front of you. You get used to that. I've been here 4 years. Well, I've been coming to Thailand for 20 years. I'm really used to that. If you look at the marks on the road, nobody stays in lane. They take the shortest route. It's called the driver's route if you're a racing driver. Well, they take the driver's line, which means they cross lanes. They don't understand how roundabouts work. To a large extent, it's quite refreshing. Because I'm being brought up in a Western culture where everybody sticks to the rules. When you first come here, it's a bit crazy. Then you think, I quite like the freedom of no rules. But obviously, you've got to have your wits around you. I'm glad I've got a Western head and I'm ignoring Thailand rules. Because I've got the alertness and the fast thinking of a Westerner enjoying no rules. But if I was brought up in a country with no rules, I'd have no skills, because definitely these drivers have got no skills, and they've not been trained, they've not been taught, they've got no awareness of the road safety codes, highway code, stopping distances. They can jump on any bike, and it's interesting. Let's put it to you that way. Not as interesting, as I say, as what was on the news this morning, which was all about people coming across from the channel, and there's, God bless them, there's another person died on the French side trying to cross. Something like 500 people came yesterday, and they reckon 27,000 people have come over this year so far. That's a huge amount of people. That's like the population of a lot of major towns, and you wonder where these people are going. Well, according to Nigel Farage, and I believe him, they're going into 3- and 5-star hotels at our taxpayers' expense. And of course, what this does is it creates hostility. And I just want to tell you that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's designed to create hostility and division. It's designed to get people angry. And then you've got people like Priti Patel and Boris Johnson just soundbiting the problem. Oh, we're going to sort this out, we're going to sort that out, and they've done absolutely nothing about it. Brexit was all about one of the campaigning motives, one of the major campaigning benefits, they said, was that they were going to control the borders. Well, they haven't. It's worse than ever. and we're paying the French to do certain things, and they're not doing it, and in fact they don't want the problem, so they're letting them go. And then these people are being told on the French side that when you get over into English waters that you phone 999. And so our lifeboat service, which is all volunteers, as you know, those guys are unfortunately getting hammered. You know, they're turning out not once a week, twice a week, but probably 5 times a day, which puts their jobs at risk, because the employers of those volunteers, you know, you've probably got shopkeepers and, I don't know, factory workers and secretaries, whoever's manning those lifeboats very bravely, very courageously, and very honourably. I give them massive respect, putting their lives at risk to save people. God bless them. They've got livelihoods, they've got families, and they were prepared possibly to turn out, what, a dozen times a year, a couple of dozen times a year, but now it's possibly more than a couple of dozen times a month. How do they sustain the jobs? How do they guarantee that their employers won't let them go because they're hardly attending work, their full-time job? So there's all these issues, and of course all we get is, a bit like Greta Thunberg says, blah 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 from our world leaders. I mean, our world leaders are, at the moment, particular government that we've got in power, I don't like to get political, but you can't miss the fact that it sleaze, doublespeak, lies, basically. You know, they are, this Cox bloke has been earning £1 million a year in various jobs outside of his ministerial responsibilities. Makes you wonder how much time he actually gives doing work for his constituents, if he's more interested in doing work for himself. And it's just come out this morning on the news that he has been doing work in the Virgin Islands against the British government. You couldn't make it up. So what's it all about, and how is this relevant on Mr. GTV and me? Because I'm into energy and consciousness. Well, first of all, you've got to realise that all of these things are just a story, and I'm relating them to you, and maybe you wouldn't have known, so maybe I'm at fault for letting you know. But the problem is you can't avoid knowing, because the world's a shit show, and it's getting worse, and it's getting worse because of these corrupt sleaze leaders. And it's getting worse, and it will get worse because of the aggression that's being created by the division in society that's on the increase, because we've got people coming in from Afghanistan, we've got people coming in from France, from all sorts of countries. We don't know who they are, we don't know where they're going, we don't know what their medical status is, financial status is, but we're supporting it all. And the job of government is to govern the mentality of the people that they are supposed to represent, but they're just representing themselves, and there's a worldwide agenda to create chaos, and then they'll come up with the solution, which is suppression, oppression, dictatorial rules that take us back to pre-war times. And I won't go into what I mean by that, but I think you understand what happened in 1943, 1945 in certain parts of the world. And you only have to look at New Zealand and Australia to see how psychopathic world leaders can create, illegally in my opinion, legislation with no regard to the people that they're supposed to represent, lock them down and tell them what they've got to do. And we're going to see more of that going into winter and next year. We've already been told by our psychopathic leader in both parties. I'm not picking on any particular political party, because I've said in another talk, left wing, right wing, same bird. I'm just to let you know now that I'm coming into the city boundary now for Hawaii Inn. You'll start to see the town in a minute, but although this road won't actually go into the centre of town, but not far from it, so keep watching. If what I'm saying is not interesting, hopefully you're enjoying the view. But left wing, right wing, whether it's Keir Starmer or whether it's Boris Johnson or the leader of the Scottish Party or whoever they've got in Wales, who in my opinion is another psychopath, completely out of touch. And if you look at his family history, he's completely in a bad place to be moralistic with anybody. If you just Google Mark Drayford's son, that's the Welsh Prime Minister, the Welsh Minister, what's going on in his family, and I won't even risk saying it, but it's disgusting. And he's moralising, and you know, we've got in other countries Biden, and we know about Hunter Biden and the corruption with the Clintons and Trump's, that all the same. There's some better than others, but I'm not going to take sides because it's all the same bird. Where the sides exist is between what in a derogatory way is called the commoners, which is a put down, but we are the commoners, we are the common people, the population, the masses. And then you've got the leaders, which you could put into the category of the elites, who are demonstrating all the time that the rules that they're imposing on the commoners, on the population, don't apply to them. And there's so much evidence of that, whether you're prepared to accept it or not. So what's it all about? Well, it's about an assault on freedom, consciousness, peace of mind, health, finances, which is your security. Most people just want to do a good day's work and have a happy life and look after the family and do something fulfilling, satisfying and edifying. That's far from what we're experiencing at the moment in the world, with all these draconian rules and legislations and regulations, and it's going to get worse, trust me. So my solution is to just know what's going on and then use my favourite affirmation, which is that didn't get to me. It's very difficult, really, not to let it get to you if you're in a situation where you particularly are being threatened. But the reason that you're being threatened is because society is set up in a way where we have assumed that what we've been told is important is important. And I think there's a great awakening going on, that people are realising that having a big house, a big car, a big television, the latest piece of tech, all this sort of stuff that we all this sort of stuff that we're told is important. We're just at this roundabout now. Can you see how crazy it is? Is what you're working for. You know, we're sort of in jobs that we don't like to buy things that we don't need massively. And ultimately, all this lockdown and all this furlough and working from home and this reorganisation of society that they call the Great Reset, whether you accept it or not, it's a fact, which is Agenda 21 stuff, which is a public document and is being rolled out as we speak, and has been probably since the beginning of this millennium and before, if you join the dots as to some of the changes in society, the situations that have been manipulated to bring in rules, a whole load of stuff really, social engineering, not forgetting that the government pay a behavioural insights team to watch trends through Google Analytics, Facebook control, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. All these platforms are government tools to keep an eye on us. It's the big brother mentality, where they know what we're thinking, what we're looking, what we're buying, and then they are specifically targeting things to us so that we get controlled, we get funneled in one direction, moved in another direction. You know, that's the way it works, and it always has done. I did a presentation called "Your Devices Are Divisive." You know, if we didn't buy all these things, if we didn't have these devices, how would they communicate with us? How would you know if you've been pinged on a track and trace app if you didn't have a smartphone? And they're telling us that you can't come in unless you've got this thing on your phone. But what if you didn't have the phone? And yet we're queuing up to buy these things that they're actually suppressing us with. You know, if they want us to have these apps, let them give us the phones. You know, quite often in Thailand where I live, I lose my Wi-Fi. And I posted the other day that, you know, losing your Wi-Fi is the new peace of mind. You know, to be honest with you, it's a breath of fresh air when I can't get online, even though I want to talk to my clients, and particularly the ones that are vulnerable that I support, and I want to communicate with you guys. If we have a thunderstorm one night and I've got a plan to come online, as I always do, sometimes I think, well, I can have a night off. What happened if we all had a week off? What happened if we all had a year off? As I say, you know, the BBC, the mainstream media, is a tool that we're being manipulated by, through. What happened if we switched it all off? What happened if we just didn't know? They couldn't issue enough paper to tell us the continual change in all the rules. Now this is what they call Pet Kasim Road now, and I'm going out to see a client at a place called Kautakiab. And there's a temple on the left hand side coming up now. Can you see the building here? That's the temple. That's the temple in Hua Hin town. I'm going to start to come out and film some of this stuff. There's quite a lot of pictures and films and stuff on my Mr. Mike Garner YouTube channel. You can go there, and I've got a series of videos on there called Hints and Tips, and also Nuggets of Wisdom and Witnessing the World, and that was my first YouTube channel, and there's some fantastic stuff on there. It didn't really get followed that much. I've never paid for boosting videos, it's just the people that I know. But if you go to Mr. Mike Garner YouTube channel, just put in Mr. Mike Garner in YouTube channel, you take you to that channel, and there's stuff on my Mr. Mike Garner Facebook page if you're interested in Thailand and what goes on. But I'm at the traffic lights here now, and I've probably got about 10 minutes to go to my destination, so I'm winding this up now. But just keep abreast of the news and realise that what you're being told isn't really representative of what's going on. It's just what the government machine want you to know, and the government machine own the networks, they own the internet. I mean, you must have realised that by now. You know, there's not two sides of any debate. You can't say what you think. Freedoms are being removed, and people who say what they want, they're being removed. And this is very much like, I've got somebody staying with me at the moment from Hong Kong, and literally in Hong Kong and China, if people say what they want, they're not just removed from social media platforms, they're actually detained in detention centres and tortured. And we all know that, but what are we doing about that? And we all know that somebody died in France yesterday. It wasn't reported on any mainstream media platform. Nobody's talking about 500 people a day coming over, and the fact that they're in 5-star and 3-star hotels, which is why you can't stay in Bournemouth and Somerset. You try and book in the Hilton Hotel, you try and get into any hotel in the area where they're landing, you can't. You just can't. They're all full, and we're also paying for security to protect these people. And as I say, these volunteers, the RNLI, are working flat out with the police, and they've got drones up and they've got helicopters, and that's all being paid for by taxpayers' money, your money, my money. Well, we've got soldiers on the street, homeless. We've got a failing NHS. We've got roads with holes in it. You know what I'm talking about. That taxpayers' money is to improve the infrastructure of the areas where the taxpayers live, and it's not. Now, as I say, I'm not getting political, but you know, the reason why it's not doing what it should be doing is because it's not affecting the people who are legislating. It's them and us. The commoners are suffering, are being restricted, while the elites are just carry on as normal. And there's no more evidence of that than in this COP26 and in the meeting in Glasgow, and the one that they had, the climate summit, and all this other stuff that they're putting on, all these big events where the world leaders come. Just watch at the way they behave. No social distancing, no masks, no checks on injections, none of the things that apply to you and me. Well, not just apply, none of the things that are being enforced on you and me. And then just take a look at what's going on in New Zealand, and you won't find it, and in Australia, and you won't find it on mainstream media being reported the truth. It's just glossed over. You go onto the YouTube and Google violence on the streets, protests. You'll be gobsmacked, as I am. So over the next few days, I'm going to be reporting on more of this and telling you what you should do, in my opinion, is don't let it get to you. And there's many ways, and I'm going to be going live explaining the many ways that you can maintain your power, keep your power up and maintain your power, and what you can do metaphysically, vibrationally, to become a spiritual warrior, to fight back in a positive, peaceful, powerful way. You don't have to have violent protests. We can protest metaphysically, and there's some physical, practical things that you can do as well, where you can become a victor to this and not a victim. And that's what I encourage, and that's what I support, and that's what I believe in. More power to you. God bless you. I'm actually at my location now, so have a wonderful day, and I'll be checking in later to share some more stuff with me on Mr. GTV. Take care.